Hey guys, so I had quite interesting game in the Polish tournament, Vistula Eagles, and I decided I want to share with you this game. And it was kinda intense because this was Henselt against Aithne, and I would say Henselt to some extent might be tiny bit favored against Spellateal, especially if there are Scorches, Borgs flying around and stuff. And this game was kind of intense, so I thought I would maybe, show you guys my thoughts about this and analyze my moves, so you can get better understanding, maybe of the game, maybe of the matchup, or the moves I made. So my deck is tiny bit different than the normal Spellateal. I included Igni, Roach, and also Yorveth. I guess Yorveth is kinda standard, but Igni, in my opinion, is very strong card, and Roach is also quite good for Spellateal, because if you have Roach, then the main problem with Spellateal is that it has very low tempo early on. So by playing that Roach, you have a lot of help there. So suddenly, Ethlin, instead of becoming, 2 or 4, it's 6 or 8. So that's something suddenly much better, and you can catch up to your opponent more easily. So I'm starting with, standard Ethlin into double Quen. I think that's really good. Maybe except Nilfgaard, where a doubles up is pretty good. But in other matchups, I would probably just almost always double Quen. So he opens with Ronvit, and this means that he has carryover now. So my very important thing to do right now is to not be behind in points. Right now I'm -4 after my move. So I'm -4 right now, and that's not really great, because if he passes now, I have to go one card down, but I cannot catch up with dry paths. So now I'm -15, so it's very important that I catch this up. Obviously, if I play Artifact Compression right now to deny his carryover, I can't. I will still be behind, so that's not really that great. So I'm considering, just playing my engines, which is obviously Farseer. Since, as I said, I'm -15 and I need to catch this up, I'm considering using Azure Double Cross. Because this way I will have additional 2 points, obviously. I was also thinking about denying that Ballista, but I concluded that it's very likely that he is going to use Henselt for something else, like Siege Towers or Siege Masters and stuff like that. So yeah, so I'm still -3 after my move, so that's not really great. But I have all my Farseers in my hand, so that's pretty good. Ideally, I would want to have more golds in my hand, but I would say that's like reasonably good hand. So playing against Henselt means that, or well, any deck really, it means you need to identify the threats that are that might destroy your game plan. So with Henselt, I identified, I think, 4. One is light cavalry, the second one is Borg, the third one is Scorch, and the fourth one is Henselt. Obviously, all of these plays are super powerful. So whenever I play the card, I had those 4 things in mind. So that's some kind of mental checklist. Whenever I make a move, I think about those 4 things because they can be really, really scary. Here he passed with carryover and forcing me to go 1 card down. I think that's a great move from him. But I wanted to deny that carry. Like in general, the best target for Artifact Compression against Henselt is Ronvit. It's actually really strong card, so I still decided to use Artifact Compression on this. The problem is that all of the 4 threats that I described still haven't been played. So it means I cannot just dry pass, and that's the ideal scenario I would want to do, because Spellateal just usually dry passes, right? However, I need to, if he uses Scourge and Bork in the 3rd round, I'm screwed. No matter how much cards I have, no matter how much points I generate, whatever, right? So in order to prevent this, I decided I need to play this round out, and I'm going to see how much I can push, but I really want to probably deal with Henselt and Scorch and maybe even Borg as well. Yeah. So now it's clear that he has cavalry, and he's obviously he wants to set it off right now. So it confirmed my suspicions here, and fortunately I had Summoning Circle in my hand, so I decided to use it on the spy. Obviously that's the main target. The secondary target for Summoning Circle is another Farseer, which I was considering at the beginning, but yeah, they play spy, so I decided to keep it. Yeah, so I'm going to play this until I see the threats that I talked about going off, right? So if he commits Henselt, if he commits Scorchborg, stuff like that, then I'm going to pass, but until this I need to push. Obviously I don't want to push with everything I have, so I don't want to lose my protectors or whatever, but this is quite important that I push him a little, right? Because Henselt quite often is like almost 30 points play, and you don't want to give 30 points play in the third round for your opponent, obviously, right? Yeah. So, and here, since he used the spy and I used the spy, the entire fight is about whether I manage to get back one card also. But in this case, I'm more thinking about those threats, not really that one card. Because in the third round, if I eliminate all the threats that Henselt has, he's left with stuff like ballistas and reinforced ballistas, and these things, they are good on long rounds with a lot of crewmen and stuff like that, but honestly in short third round they, in my opinion, they suck. So my protectors for sure will be worth much more, so I decided to so I knew if I managed to get rid of his threats, then I will be able to win the third round, even if I was one card down. So a lot of people pay so much attention to being one card up or one card down. Sure, it matters a lot, obviously, but on the other hand, what matters even more is the resources that you have in the game. So Scorch is worth, you know, 2 cards, kinda, or Henselt, right? Like 30 points from Henselt, it's worth, in my opinion, like 2 cards, right? So if I deny the Henselt, if I force him to Henselt in this round, then it's not going to be that scary in the third round. Yeah, so here I'm playing my Mahakam Ale. I have only one because I have Farseers and I'm really big fan of Farseer. Obviously I did the math there, so I ended up at 20 and Cavalry goes off at 21. So I was able to do that. So now so I forced out Henselt, and that's making me really happy already. So one threat, you know, we can cross it off. So that's good. So now that's still only one threat, right? So I still need to play more. So I decided to play more cards. In this case, after he played out that Henselt, I kinda was accepting slowly the fact that I might not have, that I might be one card down in the third round. But as I said before, that's fine in this scenario, I think. Yep. So now I'm pretty much just playing, you know, cards, buffing my protectors. You know, having Mardrum in the third round is not particularly good against Henselt, so I just want to get rid of it, really. So, yeah, so I'm just playing, you know, gaining some value here and there, buffing my protectors, that's pretty good, and I'm forcing out the cards from him, so that's the most important part. I want to force out some good cards from him, and right now to some extent I'm trading bad cards for good cards, right? Because obviously Azul Thunder also sucks in the third round. So he realizes this, so he also doesn't play like super good cards. He's just playing ballistas and stuff, and he lines up my Farseers right now. So I was slightly scared right there, but it also wasn't that bad, right? So if he Scorches right now, I'm fine, since I will have the threads that I was talking about, another thread crossed off from the from my mind. However, obviously this would mean that I might not get one card back, so this was a little worrisome here and there. Alright, so now I get my Azul Thunder. Again, that's in this case that's 11-point card, because it buffs Farseers, but in the third round it would kind of suck. So I just want to get rid of it and hopefully, you know, force stuff out of him. And obviously, until the third round, to some extent, I also want to thin my deck. So right now, I'm probably going to play my first light as well, because this means that I might get rid of 1-2 cards more. Obviously, in this case, first light is slightly risky because that's only 66% chance of mercenary, and I obviously don't want to play protector. But when the risk is 66%, I usually tend to take it. I think anything below 60% is like unreasonable risk, but 66% risk is like kind of okay. Like you can live with this. Obviously, if it doesn't work out, that's fine. So here comes Big Scorch. And this totally confirms that I'm not going to have card, like, I'm going to go 1 card down in the third round, but that's another threat that I got rid of. So on one hand I'm really sad, but I'm also kinda happy right there. So the only thing left I need to worry about is Cavalry and Bork. So I'm leaving my Aethni and Yorveth in order to pull off doubles up. Obviously, like Yorveth deals 7 damage, and Aethna will also deal 7 damage, and together they can kill Borg. And so that's my I'm just showing right now on the screen. So now I'm just getting rid of the last not the greatest card, and I'm thinning a bit more, and I got lucky to some extent here. 66% risk to was worth it, and now he obviously cannot pass yet, because even though he has 30 points advantage, he can't hero pass on 6 cards, because that's very easy to catch up. Like you can do hero passes at 2 cards, maybe at 3, but definitely not at 6. Yeah, so he also realizes that I'm just wasting bad cards and getting rid of them, so he kinda does the same. Here you have Muzzle, which obviously is a very good card, and it's a gold card and everything, but against Spellateal it's not really particularly good, because I will have, huge protectors protected by Quen as well, so it's very hard to get them down to 8 points, and I don't really have any engines at 8 or anything, so it might be even dead. So he identified this really well, and he managed to get rid of the card. Alright, so my plan to some extent worked. I will have 1 card less, but I got rid of most of the threats. The only thing I'm worried about right now is Bork and Cavalry. So in order to prevent Bork off, I already have a plan, and for Cavalry I obviously need to do the math all the time. And he has 1 card more, so that's a little bit worrisome. But as you see, this is a 7-point card, right? And my other cards are Protector is 14, Yorvet is also 14, so I don't really care that much about this card advantage. So it's quite an important lesson, in my opinion, that card advantage is important, but it's not end of the world if you don't have it and stuff like that, right? It's obviously relative, right? If you sometimes against certain decks you need to have card advantage to actually win, right? Yep. So he's playing very slowly right now. I think his goal right now is to pull off the Cavalry out of his deck. So I need to be very, very careful there. My plan for the third round usually is to play Protectors first, and then remove whatever I can. So Aethni can play again Artifact Compression, and I have Igni there, Yorveth. Generally, Igni is great if you have it in the first round. So like in long rounds, Igni is great, but in short rounds it's not that awesome. So here there is a chance it might not go off. So I'm just playing Protectors here. There's nothing to remove yet. So it's fine to play it. Obviously he can line them up a bit, so that's maybe a tiny bit risky, but he doesn't have any real removals anyway, because Scorch is gone, and I can kill Borg quite easily here. So now the biggest problem is to obviously not go over 20 points of advantage, but also what to do with Igni, right? Because if I assume that there is Bork, I need to play Igni now, but there is a high chance that Igni will be dead. So that's a bit of a problem here, and you know, I have to do a lot of thinking about this. It's only 19 in the row, not 25. So you know, I have to make a read. Is there Bork or not? And I honestly don't know. He still hasn't told me whether he had the Bork in his deck or not in general. But I decided to play around Bork because there is a high chance it could be there. A lot of people do play it, and it's instant GG for me if I don't play around it. So I decided to play around it because if there is no Bork, then I still have chance to win. But if there is Bork, I lose 100%, right? So it's very important to eliminate the threats that are most scary to you. Yeah, and now it appears there is no Bork, so I was super happy to see this. And he again plays kind of bad card. It only generated 10 value, while all of my cards generate much more. So Yorveth is pretty good here. Just a value play, really. But as you see, after playing him, I'm 15 points up. However, obviously I can't be, I have to be very careful there. Alright, so he plays his Dijkstra, he gets Ballista out, and that's not really super powerful, you know, that's like 11, right, points play, so that's something I can survive. And then there's Cavalry out, which like kinda wins me the game, or it's pretty good for me. So now I just need to not play anything that will bring me over 20 points, and I will be fine. The problem is right now I'm really stressed. This is the last card of the semi-final, and you know, math is not easy there because he damaged my protector, so I don't even know how big they are because Gwentap shows slightly different value than it's the accurate one. So I'm not really sure, can I play protector or not? So, and I'm also considering Mahakam Ale there. So it's tough math under such a pressure, since I'm also roping and everything. So eventually, so I'm just also considering Azul Thunder, because this will probably not put me off, put me on advantage over 20 points. So I didn't do super tight math there. I just went with since I was running out of the time. I just did it by the feel, and I thought the Thunder will be enough. So I wanted to make a lot of points, but I couldn't make too many points, so that was a bit shaky. So here I managed to win. That was Siege Master. So it was pretty intense game for me there, because every single move had to be calculated to not be too big and not be too small. So that's kind of hard. So yeah, so that would be probably it. So the biggest lesson from this video that I would love you to take is that you need to identify threats to your game plan from your opponent, and if you do, then suddenly you can play around. So first, if you need to identify them, and then if you do, then you need to figure out what to do about them. So so that's another level of or layer of Gwent. Not only knowing how to pilot your deck by itself, but also knowing how to interact with other decks. So this is quite difficult because it requires deep knowledge of your deck and deck of your opponent and how they interact with each other. So probably the best way to learn those things is by playing scrims with your friends, because ladder, you might not find such matchup or stuff like that. So I generally recommend playing against your friends if you want to learn certain matchup and stuff like that. Alright, thanks for watching, and I encourage you to maybe subscribe, and I will probably make more of those. So thanks for watching, and bye bye.